Hi, my name is Sam Johnson and I am a voice teacher. Today I will be reacting to and analyzing and probably gushing over Usher performing Confessions Part 2 for Tiny Desk Concert, NPR. Subscribe.
This next one, right? It's one of them ones. Yeah. Well, actually, I don't want to talk too much about it. I'm gonna just go ahead and get into it because I do have something that before we get into it that I wanna confess, right? Oh well, shit! I just gave it away. Here we go. Cat's out the bag. Every time I was in LA, I was with my ex-girlfriend. Every time you called, I told you, baby, I'm working.
So far, he's only singing up to the F, only, right? I mean, it's right in a very tricky part of most lower voices, and he sounds, though, so bright. It sounds a lot higher in his voice than it would in some other people's voices. So that's the different timbre of his voice, and that's timbre spelled Timbre, spelled kind of like timber, but timbre. And timbre is just kind of the overall quality of an instrument, and in his case, his voice. So because it sounds higher like that, I think a lot of times people will go imitate that quality, and maybe if their voice isn't actually as naturally high sounding as his is, they might compromise their technique to try to achieve this sound quality. Like if I tried going this bright, it would probably make my larynx rise a lot up in this part of my range and make things a little bit more difficult. So it's just something to watch out for, because like it works super well for him. He is a wonderful singer. Maybe if you're trying to sing this song, you might not be able to sound exactly like that. Who would have thought? Which is true for everything, but I think this is a good example of that.
I was out doing my dirt. I wasn't thinking about you getting hurt. Was hand in hand in the Beverly Center like, man, not giving a damn who sees me. So thorn, so wrong. I was acting like I didn't have you sitting at home thinking about me, being the good girl that you are. But you probably believe you got a good man, a man that never would do the things I'm about to tell you I've done. Brace yourself, it ain't good, but it would be even worse if you heard this from somebody else. Everybody.
Okay, so most of that is kind of like operatic recit. It's a recitative. It's almost rap. It's telling a story, but it's mostly spending time on just one or two notes. It's very spoken. Like it sounds like he's speaking a very, I mean, he has a beautiful voice, so even when he's just speaking, it sounds good and it sounds cool. It's on those specific pitches, which makes it sound singy. There's not really anything that he's doing that is like, I'm singing, I'm gonna make myself sing, which I think is a good thing. And I think it's something that we can really imitate as other singers, because a lot of times we'll talk like in ways that we will use our voice, but we won't really use it like that when we're singing. And that was a terrible example, but a lot of people will speak with a ton of melodic range, and it doesn't sound hard, and they'll go try singing those exact same notes, and it sounds hard. And with Usher, it does not sound hard for him to do anything that he's done up till now. It sounds as easy as speech, which is the goal, and there's a very similar quality to speech. It's not as broken up as speech sometimes is, but I think that a lot of times speech is not very broken up. We don't talk like this most of the time.
Put your hands up. Everybody in the house, put your hands up. Here we go.
When Usher tells you to put your hands up, you put your hands up.
Drop them. Hey. Oh. Hey. Hey.
Gosh, his eyes are so...
Just when I thought I said all I can say, my chick on the side say she got one on the way. These are my confessions. Damn, I'm throwed and I don't know what to do.
Love those little harmonies. So Usher's on the C, C, A flat, C, C, A flat, safe C, A flat, and then we've got this other singer on top, which is the E flat and the C. So it's a third, which is the most common harmony technique is just singing stacked thirds. So if you have a piano and you're curious about singing harmony, maybe just go choose a song, see if you can play out the melody on that, and then go 3 notes above it. So a C would go to an E or an E flat. And just when in doubt, go with what one sounds better to you. Just use your judgment with that, and you will probably find the right one. But it starts out with a minor third above, and then it goes to a major third. So minor third to major third. Thirds are good.
I guess I gotta keep part 2 of my confession. If I'm gonna tell it, then I gotta tell it all. I damn near cried when I got that phone call. I'm so low, and I don't know what to do but to give you part 2 of my confession. This gonna be the hardest thing
So he is going up to that F over and over and over and over and over. And I think with most men, when we go up to that part of our voice over and over, especially untrained men, it tends to start getting more pushy. Just most of the time, that's what seems to happen, unless you realize that it is right on a bridge, one of these passagios, these points of transition in the voice where there's going to be some sort of shift in quality or in sensation. And so recognizing it's right up on that bridge a lot of times lets us have the power to not push into it as much, because like we could either push into it or we could let it be a little bit more mixy. Most people I think will push into it. So watch out, try to let it be a little bit more of this lighter quality or this headier quality, because to me it doesn't sound like he's pushing, and some of the things he's doing to avoid that I think are just backing off on the volume and not opening his mouth very much.
I ever had to do, got me talking to myself, asking how I'm gonna tell her about that chick on part 1 I told y'all I was creeping with. She say she's 3 months pregnant and she's keeping it. The first thing that came to mind, and the second thing was, how do I know if it's mine? Is it true? Third thing was me wishing that I never did what I did. How I ain't ready for no kid, and bye-bye to my relationship.
Good. He said relationship, and his lips were a little bit round.
Just when I thought I said all I can say, my chick on the side say she got one on the way. These are my confessions. Man, I'm through, and I don't know what to do. I guess I gotta keep part 2 of mine. If I'm gonna tell it, then I gotta tell it all.
Good. So his mouth is not dropping that much. He's not opening his mouth a tremendous amount. It is open. By doing that, it actually introduces a little bit of this, I used to use the word compressed sound. That word hasn't made as much sense to me lately, so I haven't been using it. It's a brighter sort of tone. A lot of times people will describe it as a feeling of like slight tension in their jaw or slight pressure that can sometimes be uncomfortable. And I think a lot of times when people notice that, the solution is just drop your jaw a little bit. But that would make it sound less bright, for sure. So going on what I was talking about earlier, that's one of the things he's doing that kind of is encouraging a brighter sound. It's just not dropping his jaw as much. Another thing that's encouraging that sound is bringing the back of his tongue fairly high up, so that the space between the middle back of his tongue and the roof of his mouth is fairly narrow most of the time, where a lot of people, especially on ah vowels and o vowels and oo vowels, they will really drop their back of their tongue too far to the point that it gets stuck in their throat, and that's not very comfortable. And you can kind of find that by playing around with your tongue and pulling your tongue back really far. Oh, it's as if you're going from an E to an but you just keep going. Yeah. And you just keep going. And then without making sound, just hold it in that position and pay attention to your throat and see what you feel. A lot of people will say that it feels tense or it feels open, because a lot of times it does feel open, but it's not open. So pull it back all the way, pay attention to what it feels like, and then bring your tongue out of your throat until you don't feel that thing anymore. And the more that you kind of go back and forth and say, this is what it feels like to have a tongue that's too far back to the point that it's filling up all of the space in my throat, and this is what it feels like to be a little bit more in my mouth, like what Usher is doing, because we always want to be like Usher, I think. Let me know if that's not true, but I think we always want to be like Usher. And just going back and forth like that, you'll start recognizing in the moment more frequently when it is pulling back too much and be able to make that slight adjustment more forward. But that's a thing that makes it sound a little bit more bright. My ideal is, can we get the tongue like that and also have the larynx be a little bit lower in the back, which helps give a more balanced sound rather than a slightly brighter sound. But that's just aesthetic preference.
Sitting here stuck on stupid trying to figure out when, what, and how I'ma let this come out of my mouth. Said it ain't gonna be easy, but I need to stop thinking, contemplating, be a man and get it over with. Over with. I'm riding in my whip, racing to her place, talking to myself, preparing to tell her to her face.
In those first few phrases, the last 3 phrases, he kind of repeated the same sort of motif, the same sort of movement. The first 2 times, he let it go up into more of a falsetto. He let go more. I think that there was still a little bit of vocal fold resistance at the muscular level, but it could be all the way to mode 2 to just the ligament. I don't know. I'm guessing a lot of this stuff, but it's very quiet. It sounds kind of like a different voice. However, when he comes back down, when that line moves down, he blends it into his chest voice really quite smoothly. The last one, it sounded like he was holding on to it a little bit more. I heard his larynx rise, I think, and that also made it sound just a little bit brighter, but also a little bit more intense because he was definitely using more of the muscle to resist the air rather than just the vocal ligament. And so it's just kind of that compromise. I think a lot of times when we're singing, we don't want the larynx to rise too much because it makes things harder, but it can sound good.
She opened up the door, didn't want to come near me. I said, 1 second, baby, please hit me. Just when I thought I said all I can say, my chick on the side said she got one.
He's kind of crying into those, using that emotion, and that cry is a really good way to start. So if you kind of pretend that you're crying, or maybe it's a baby puppy cry, and then it does a lot of really good things to the voice. With him, it's obvious, it just sounds awesome, but he's also able to start in that more mode 2 kind of configuration without adding too much pressure, go into a slightly lighter volume. It just sounds awesome. He's so good, but it starts from the storytelling. It's because of the storytelling that he's doing these things.
Oh, wait, these are my confessions, man. I don't know what to do. I guess I gotta give it part to my confession. If I'm gonna tell it, then I gotta tell it all. Damn, then cry. I got that phone call. When I got it, so low. I didn't know what to do.
Dang, that song is so good. Yeah, I love that song. He's moving the whole time, right? Like, that's one of the things that I think is different about singing pop or R&B music, which I believe is kind of a subset of pop, versus classical music, is a lot of times with classical music, the musicians singing aren't feeling the music. Like, they don't move with the music, at least in like a very rhythmic dance way, most of the time. Whereas with most pop music, if you're not acknowledging the beat, it's wrong, you're weird, it's not going to read very well. So he does that really well, but he also does a lot of things that would work perfectly in any opera or any music theater show, which is just all of his storytelling. Like, it's how he is acting a song is beautiful. And I think that that's a kind of distinct skill from just acting in general until you learn how to start crossing those paths a little bit more. Because I think a lot of people don't get taught how to sing and act at the same time. It's just acting or singing and not sing acting. And so watch how people who are really good storytellers use their eyes and use their gestures, and then just start playing with that. Imitate it to get used to what it feels like, but while you're imitating it, pay attention to how your body responds, of like what it feels like to do that thing. Because a lot of times if you just move your body in a certain way, you're actually going to feel a emotion associated with it, especially if it's coupled with saying words. And just start noticing what those things make you feel. And keep acting, keep aspiring to be like Usher, at least musically and vocally, and probably in other ways, you know? Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment below. Go check out my website, vocalease.net, if you are interested in signing up for voice lessons with me or with any of two other wonderful teachers. Thank you.